The battlefield was quiet now. The dust had settled. Burnt metal, fallen weapons, and silence were all that remained.
Ow.
Human soldier Jace stood tall, blood on his armor, but pride in his heart. He had done what no other being had ever done, defeated the royal champion of the Graxian Empire in single combat. The crowd of aliens was shocked. The mighty Graxians, known across galaxies for their strength, now stared at a human who had just embarrassed their best warrior. Their king, a tall creature, with a golden mask and cruel eyes, stepped forward. His voice echoed across the arena. "You human have earned a reward," the alien king said, but there was something strange in his tone. It wasn't respect, it was amusement. Jace stepped forward, expected a medal, maybe a ship, or a key to a city. But instead, the king waved his hand. From behind a curtain, a figure slowly walked out. She was small, a young alien woman, maybe in her early 20s. Her skin shimmered faintly like blue moonlight, but one of her legs dragged behind her. Her arm hung oddly at her side. She didn't look up. Her eyes stared at the ground. "Behold," the king said mockingly, "my daughter, weak, broken, useless to my bloodline. It you human may take her, a trophy fit for a lesser species." The crowd laughed cruelly. Jace didn't laugh. The girl trembled as she stopped before him. Her lip was cut, and there were faint bruises on her neck. Jace looked at her, then back at the king. "This is a joke," he said firmly. "No," the king grinned. "It is tradition. You won. You get a prize. I offer my daughter, who else would take her?" was spread across the court. Words like cripple, curse, embarrassment. Jace hated every sound of it. The girl dared to glance up at him for just a moment. Her eyes were large, not empty, not dead, just afraid, alone. Something inside Jace tightened. "What's your name?" he asked softly. The girl blinked as if surprised he spoke to her. "Zelari," she whispered. Jayak reached out his hand. "Come with me." Gasps filled the court. The king blinked. "You accept?" Jace's voice was hard now. "Accept her as a person, not a prize. And I don't take orders from cowards who mock their own children." The laughter died. Guards stepped forward, but the king raised his hand to stop them. His voice was calm, but his face showed fury. "Take her and go, human. But no, she is not a gift. She is a burden. You'll see." Jace didn't answer, just took off his own cloak and gently wrapped it around the girl's shoulders. Zelari flinched but didn't pull away. As they walked out of the arena together, the entire empire stared. A human and a broken alien girl leaving side by side. Later on Jace's small ship, Zelari sat silently in a chair. She hadn't spoken again. She stared at her hands as if they didn't belong to her. Jace moved quietly around the cabin. "Making tea? I don't need a servant," he said, "or a trophy. If you want to leave once we reach the next station, I won't stop you." No reply. He placed a cup in front of her. "But if you want to stay, we'll figure things out." Still nothing, till softly he heard her whisper, Why didn't you laugh?" Jace looked up. "Because I've seen real strength, and I know what weakness truly is. That king, he's the weak one." Zelari looked at him, tears forming in her strange silver eyes. "No one has ever said that before?" Jace smiled gently. "Then I guess we're starting fresh." As the ship entered lightspeed, Jace didn't realize that in that single moment, in that simple act of kindness, he had begun to rewrite the fate of a broken princess and maybe the future of 2 entire species. But trouble would come. The king wasn't done. And Zelari's past was darker than she let on. This was just the beginning. The silence inside Jace's ship wasn't peaceful, it was heavy. Zelari sat on the edge of a small bunk, legs tucked under her, back pressed to the wall. The human's coat still wrapped around her like a shield. She hadn't removed it since they left the alien palace. It smelled like dust, oil, and something warm, something safe. Jace moved carefully around the cabin. Didn't talk much either, not because he was ignoring her, but because he didn't want to scare her off. He cooked, cleaned, adjusted the nav systems, and kept an eye on her. From a respectful distance, she watched him from the corner of her eye, confused, waiting, always waiting for pain, for shouting, for the sudden strike of punishment. But it never came. Instead, she watched him fix a broken maintenance drone. It had a burned-out voice module, a useless unit, most would say. But Jace sat with a careful touch, gently opening panels, soldering wires, whispering things like, "You're not junk yet, buddy." That was when something inside her broke and also healed. Her lip quivered. "Help." The whisper was so soft, it barely traveled across the room. Jace turned instantly. "What did you say?" She looked at him like a child afraid of her own voice. "Help me." Jace slowly walked over, crouched down but didn't reach for her. "What do you need help with?" Zalari's fingers curled around the hem of her sleeve. She struggled to speak, the words sharp and jagged in her throat. "My leg hurts. My arm too. I can't sleep. And I don't know how to be." This, she meant free. She meant not a prisoner. Jace gave a soft nod. "Okay, I can help with that." He guided her gently to the ship's med bay. It wasn't fancy, but it had basic tools. He scanned her leg-fractured bones that were never set right. Her arm, dislocated years ago, left to heal wrong. No wonder she limped. No wonder she couldn't lift it. Jace's hands didn't flinch. He didn't pity her. He treated her like a real patient. "I'm going to reset your shoulder," he said. "It'll hurt, but only for a moment. Then it'll feel better." Zalari didn't answer. Ours were wide. Not from the pain, but from the way he spoke, like she mattered. "Ready?" Jace asked. She nodded. The crack echoed through the room. She gasped, but didn't scream. Afterward, he wrapped her arm carefully, then handed her a warm pack. "Tougher than most soldiers I've met." He smiled. Tears slipped down her cheeks. "I'm not strong. My father said I was useless. A waste of royal blood." Jace looked her in the eyes. "Your father's afraid." It confused her. "Of what?" "Of what you could become. Someone ever treated you like a person instead of a burden." The next few days changed everything. Zalari began asking questions. "What is that tool for? Why do you drink that brown liquid every morning? Can you show me how to fix the drone's leg?" Jace answered each one with patience. He even let her try fixing small things herself. Her fingers were slow, but her mind was fast. She remembered every detail he taught her. She also laughed once. Only once, but it echoed louder than any weapon blast. The broken princess was learning, but far away. Deep in the shadows of the Graxian palace, her father was not amused. She spoke. He roared at the spy who had reported in. "She's building things with him." The spy trembled. "Why, yes, my king. The human is teaching her. She is adapting." The king slammed his fist down, shattering a stone table. She was supposed to disappear, be forgotten. How dare he turn my shame into something dangerous? The king looked at his war advisors. "Send a retrieval team. I want her back. Broken or dead, I no longer care." Back on the ship, Zalari sat beside Jace, carefully adjusting. "A drone's optic sensor, I think. I like fixing things," she said. Jace smiled. Good, because there's a lot in this universe that's broken he didn't know. They were being watched, tracked, and soon hunted. But for now, Zalari felt something new inside her chest. It wasn't fear, it was hope. And hope is the most dangerous thing a king can't control. The ship floated quietly through the stars. Outside, space was dark and cold, but inside, something was beginning to bloom. Zalari moved more freely now. Her limp was still there, but her steps were stronger. The brace Jace gave her helped support her damaged leg. Her arm, once hanging useless, was wrapped in healing. But her real change was not physical. It was the way she looked at herself in the mirror, for the first time in years. She didn't look away. She stared. Jace found her sitting alone in the back of the cargo bay. She had taken apart 3 different drones and arranged their pieces around her like puzzle parts. Her eyes were focused, her fingers careful. "What are you building now?" Jace asked, sitting nearby. Zalari didn't look up. I don't know. Something that thinks better, faster. Something smarter than me, but not scared like I was. Jace nodded slowly. You're not scared anymore? She hesitated. Only when I sleep. That night she had another nightmare. Jack heard the scream and ran to her room. She was curled up on the floor, shaking, arms wrapped around her knees. No more cages. She whispered over and over. He didn't touch her. He just sat close. After a while, she spoke. Her voice was raw. They put me in a box. A real one. Metal walls, no windows, no sound. Only a light that never turned off. They said it was for my protection. She looked at him, but really. It was because I didn't act like a princess. I liked machines, not balls or dresses. So they locked me up. For years. Jace didn't know what to say. He clenched his fists but kept his voice soft. You weren't broken. It just didn't understand you. Zalari reached up and undid the clip on her collar. Do you want to see something? She asked. He nodded. She turned around and pulled. Down the collar of her shirt across her back, running from shoulder to waist, was a scar long, deep, jagged. Jace felt a chill go through him. What did that? Zalari didn't turn around. I was 7. I built a power orb from scrap parts. It worked, but it scared the royal guards. They said I had tampered with forbidden technology. They tried to destroy it, and me. Her voice didn't shake. They burned it into me, a mark. So everyone would know I was a danger. Even in the palace I had no name. Just a title, the Silent Spark. She looked at him now, her eyes not wet with tears, but fire. I'm tired of being silent. The next morning, Jace walked into the engine room and froze. Wires covered the floor. Circuit boards lined the walls. One of his drones had been completely gutted, but in its place was a new design. Sleek, sharp, glowing with soft blue energy. Zalari stood at the center holding a datapad. What is that? He asked, half amazed, half concerned. She turned. A thinking drone. One that can help heal broken tech. A repair bot that learns on its own. I dreamed it. You built this in one night. Yes, she said simply. I remember everything. I touch. That's my curse. Or maybe my gift. Jace walked closer, examining the drone. This is genius, she smiled. A real one this time. That I'm finally something other than a disappointment. Jace stepped back, pride in his eyes. Zalari, you're not just a builder. You're a creator. You were never broken. They just couldn't control you, so they tried to ruin you. She tilted her head. Do all humans talk like you? No. Just the ones who know what it's like to be tossed aside. Later that day, an alert beeped through the ship. Jace looked at the screen. A Graxian bounty cruiser was following them. He turned serious. They've found us. Zalari's voice was cold. It's him, my father. What do you want to do? Jace asked. She looked down at her hands, once trembling, now steady. We keep flying, but I'm done hiding. That night, while Jace slept, Zalari stared at the stars again. The light from the engines reflected in her silver eyes. She touched her scar gently. For years it had been her shame. Now it was a memory of survival, a symbol of strength, and the beginning of her rise. The training deck of Jace's ship was quiet until a sharp clang broke the silence. Zalari winced as her practice blade slipped from her hand and hit the floor. Jace stood across from her, holding his own weapon gently. He didn't laugh. He didn't scold. He just waited. I can't do this, she muttered, holding her sore wrist. Yes, you can, Jace said. You just haven't done it yet. Zalari looked down. I build things. I fix wires and machines. I don't fight. I was never allowed to fight. Jace stepped closer and handed the blade back to her. That's why I'm teaching you. Not to make you a killer, but so no one can cage you again. Training began every morning. At first, it was hard. Zalari's movements were awkward. Her legs dragged. Her body didn't move like it should. But Jace didn't train her like a soldier. He trained her like a survivor. He adapted her exercises, designed arm braces for balance, weighted sticks for grip training. Even her repair drones helped by holding targets in the air for her to strike. Slowly, her confidence grew. Day by day, one swing at a time. One afternoon, Jace walked into the cargo bay and froze. Zalari had repurposed 3 drones into flying defense orbs. They hovered around her, reacting to her gestures like trained animals. With a flick of her wrist, one orb fired a stun pulse. Another formed a small shield. She looked at Jace with a smirk. "I can't swing like you, but I can think faster." Laughed. "That's not cheating, that's genius." Zalari smiled back. "Then I'm done being fair." Their next stop was a remote refueling station floating near the asteroid belt of Sector Varnix. It was supposed to be safe, just fuel, food, and back to space. But the moment they docked, Jace's instinct screamed, "Too quiet, it's too clean," as they entered the supply hall. The lights flickered. Then 6 bounty hunters stepped out from the shadows, weapons raised. Zalari froze. Her breath caught in her throat. One of the hunters sneered. "The Graxian king wants his daughter back. Alive or not doesn't matter." Jace reached for his weapon, but one of the hunters fired a stun shot first. It hit Jace in the chest. He collapsed. Gasping, Zalari screamed. The world blurred. She felt herself being grabbed, her arms twisted. Old fear rushed into her chest. She was being dragged again. But then something snapped inside. Her knot, her bones, her silence, her helplessness. She clenched her fists and shouted, "Inno." With one word, her defense orbs tucked in her pack sprang to life. 3 blue flashes filled the air. One hunter dropped, electricity crackling over his armor. Another tried to raise a blaster, but a drone slammed into his chest, knocking him back. The third grabbed Zalari by the hair, but she twisted around and stabbed him, their own stun spike. He fell like a broken tower. Jace, still weak on the ground, watched through blurry vision. She wasn't crying, she wasn't begging, she was fighting, and she was winning. When the last hunter ran, she didn't chase. She rushed to Jace's side, lifted his head, and pressed a stim patch to his neck. He blinked, breath returning. "Zalari, I got you," she whispered. Then she smiled, breathing hard. "I think I passed training." Jace gave a weak laugh. "You might have skipped a few lessons." That night, they sat in the ship's mess hall. Jace nursed his bruises. Zalari cleaned one of her drones, adding a scratch mark to its shell, one for each takedown. She said proudly, "You saved my life," Jace told her. She looked at him. "You saved mine first." But far away, in the dark halls of the Graxian Empire, her father got the report. 3 hunters down. 1 fled. The girl used tech we've never seen before. The king slammed his fist into the wall. "She's more dangerous than I thought." He turned to his warlords. "Prepare the elite guard. If she refuses to return, then she'll fall. Like a traitor." Meanwhile, on the ship, Zalari stood in front of the mirror again. This time, she didn't just stare. She raised her arms straight and steady. She wasn't the silent spark anymore. She was becoming something the galaxy wasn't ready for. The engine room was no longer just a place for fuel lines and cables. It had become her sanctuary. Zalari knelt on the floor, surrounded by strange parts, some human, some alien, and some crafted by her own hands. Sparks danced in the air. Her fingers moved quickly, but her mind moved faster. She wasn't building a weapon to kill. She was building a weapon to stop killing. Something no one had ever seen before. A weapon of peace. Jace leaned in the doorway, arms crossed. "You haven't slept in 2 days," he said gently. Zalari didn't look up. Peace doesn't wait. He stepped inside, ducking under hanging wires. "Said this thing doesn't shoot or explode. Then what does it do?" Zalari held up a glowing rod, long and smooth, humming with low energy. "It resonates with neural patterns. When aimed correctly, it sends a wave that forces the brain into a sleep-like shutdown. No pain, no scars. Just silence." Jace raised an eyebrow. "You're building a quiet stick?" She gave a tired smile. I call it the harmony staff. It forces a fight to stop, without blood. Jace knelt beside her, impressed. Zellery, this could change everything. No one builds things like this. She paused, hands trembling slightly. My people only understand fear and force. I show them this something better, maybe they'll stop seeing me as a failure. He nodded. They'll have no choice but to listen. By the third day, it was done. The staff hummed gently in her hand, blue light circling its surface like flowing water. She walked into the open cargo bay and asked Jace to try and attack her. He blinked. You sure? She nodded. Swing hard, he charged. Not to hurt, but to test. As he approached, she tapped the staff's hilt once. Soft pulsum hit the air. Jace's body seized up. His legs buckled, fell to the ground, not hurt, just unconscious for 2 seconds. He blinked awake and looked up. What? What just happened? Zellery offered her hand. You got harmonized? They both laughed. It was the first time Jace saw her laugh without fear behind it. She wasn't the same girl he met weeks ago in chains. She was stronger now, smarter and braver. A distress beacon blinked on the ship's console. Jace checked the screen. Civilian vessel under attack. Near the Orton wastes. He glanced at Zellery. We're close. She stared at the flashing message. We can help. It could be a trap, Jace warned. I know, she said. But if we don't try, what was the point of everything I built? Jace stared at her for a moment, then nodded. Let's go. The civilian vessel was burning when they arrived, spinning slowly in the void, under attack from a Graxian warskiff. Zellery's father had arrived, and this time he brought soldiers. Jace's ship couldn't win in a fight, but Zellery had another plan. She stepped into the escape pod. Drop me onto the enemy ship, she said. Jace's face went pale. Are you insane? She handed him the harmony staff. I'm not going to fight. I'm going to speak. With what army? She smiled. It's just my voice. And your invention. The pod detached and shot toward the enemy vessel. Inside, Zellery breathed deeply. No armor, no shield. Only her voice, her mind, and the staff. When the pod landed, alarms rang. Graxi soldiers rushed in ready to grab her. She didn't move. Take me to the king, she said. They hesitated. Her father's voice echoed through the speakers. Let her come. Inside the throne chamber of the warskiff, the alien king stood tall. His golden mask gleamed, but his eyes burned with rage. You dare return, he hissed. You dare speak. Zellery stepped forward. I came to give you a gift. She lifted the harmony staff. The guards raised their weapons. But she pressed. A button and nothing exploded. Instead, a soft wave rippled through the air. All the guards froze. Their muscles relaxed. Their eyes closed, and they fell, asleep. No harm. No fire. No pain. Just peace. The king looked around, stunned. Zellery looked into his eyes. You taught me fear. I taught myself peace. She stepped closer. I don't want your throne. I don't want revenge. I just want you to stop destroying what you don't understand. The king gripped the edge of his seat, shaking. You're not my daughter, he growled. She turned her back to him. I know. She returned to Jace's ship. The enemy vessel didn't chase. In fact, it drifted. Quietly. For the first time in years, the girl once locked in a cage had made an army fall without firing a single shot. The Graxian capital had never been silent before. Its towers buzzed with energy. Its roads trembled under the weight of soldiers. Its skies thundered with warships coming and going. But when she returned, even the wind held its breath. Zellery, once called the Silent Spark, now walked at the head of a crowd, her long coat swaying. The harmony staff in hand, and Jace beside her. Behind them were those who had seen what she did on the skiff. Traders, civilians, engineers even. Some ex-soldiers. They followed her not because she forced them, but because she gave them hope. Word spread like fire through the capital. The broken daughter has returned. She controls minds. She defeated soldiers without spilling blood. The palace gates, guarded by elite warriors, didn't open at first until Zelari raised her staff. One tap on the ground. A soft hum. The guards collapsed peacefully into sleep. She walked past them, not stepping over them but around, gently. "Only tyrants walk on those they defeat," she whispered. The throne room was carved from dark stone, cold and high. At the center sat the alien king. He didn't rise, he only stared. "You returned," he said. His voice was quieter than usual, like a fire burning low. Zelari didn't bow. "I returned to end this." Jace stood behind her, watching carefully. His hand never touched his weapon, but his presence was solid, supportive. The king stood now, slowly. "You come to take my throne. To steal what is rightfully mine?" "No," Zelari said. "I came to show what the throne could be." She raised the harmony staff and planted it firmly into the floor. The sound echoed across the chamber like a heartbeat. The energy pulsed, but it didn't put anyone to sleep. Instead, it activated a projection. Footage began to float in the images of her inventions stopping violence. Healing soldiers, calming riots, peace, not war. Understanding, not destruction. The advisors along the walls shifted uncomfortably. The king's fingers tightened around the edge of his seat. "You built this staff to shame me?" he asked. Zelari looked him in the eyes. "I built it so no one else would live. In a cage, so no other child would be marked for thinking differently. You were never meant to lead," he roared. "You were born broken." Zelari took one step forward, "And still, I stand here, while your army lies still, without a fight." That sentence cracked something in the throne room. An advisor dropped his head. Another took a step back. Whispers grew louder. One brave commander finally spoke. "My king, maybe we should listen." Silence. The king roared, stepping down from the throne. His voice echoed like thunder. He pulled a ceremonial blade from his belt and pointed it at his daughter. "You want to challenge me? Then do it the old way, by blood." The room gasped. X alert didn't move. "I didn't come here to spill yours." "Then you'll die like a coward," he shouted on. Rushed at her. Jace moved to defend her, but she raised her hand. "No." She stepped forward alone. The king charged blade high. Zelari didn't flinch. At the last moment, struck the base of her staff to the ground. Boom! A shockwave burst across the floor, not violent, resonant. The blade in the king's hand trembled, then shattered into pieces. He collapsed to his knees, clutching his head. The energy forced his mind into a calm state. No thoughts of rage, only stillness. The room fell deadly silent. Zelari looked around at the shocked council. "I don't want the throne," she said. "I want a council of minds, not fists. A kingdom where ideas lead, not bloodlines." The youngest counselor dropped to one knee, then another followed, then all. Even Jace bowed his head, not in obedience but in respect. The throne room, once ruled by fear, now stood in peaceful surrender. And the king, he knelt, staring at the floor. For the first time, not because he commanded, but because he was lost. That night, no sirens wailed. No armies marched. Only the sound of change whispered across the kingdom, and at its center stood the girl once cast aside. The twin suns rose slowly over the Graxian capital. For the first time in decades, they rose without the sound of marching boots or sirens. There was no war chant, no screaming orders, only peace, and peace felt. Strange. Zelari stood at the edge of the high balcony where her father once addressed the galaxy with pride and iron. Her fingers lightly touched the rail as she looked out at the crowd below. Not soldiers, not slaves, citizens. Some bowed. Most didn't, but they were all watching Jace. Stood a few steps behind her, quiet, strong, watching her. She turned slightly. "I don't want to be queen," he smiled softly. "Then don't be." She looked back. "At the city, they expect me to rule, to lead, to fix everything." Jace walked up beside her. "You already did." She frowned. "No, I didn't fix anything. I just stopped more damage." Jace shrugged. Sometimes, stopping the bleeding is the bravest thing anyone can do. Later that day, Zalari entered the old war council chamber. But this time, she brought no guards.
Ow.
No soldiers. She brought blueprints. Designs for energy farms that could power cities without mining. Schematics for repair bots that could build war zones. Plans for the Harmony staff to be turned into tools for defense, not attack. And she said one simple thing: we don't need kings, we need builders. The council didn't vote her queen. They voted her first engineer of the Astician Union, the youngest ever, the first female, and the first with scars on her back and her heart. Her father, the former king, was not imprisoned. He was ignored, left to sit alone in a quiet corner of the palace, watching a world grow beyond his control. Some said that was a harsher punishment than any cell, and maybe they were right. Weeks passed. Zalari worked non-stop rewriting laws, baking energy grids, speaking to colonies long forgotten by the Empire. The Harmony staff was no longer a secret weapon. It was mass-produced and used by peacekeepers everywhere. But one evening, Jace found her alone on the roof of her new workshop. She sat cross-legged, staring at a half-finished droid. He sat beside her. It looks complicated. She didn't smile. Everything feels heavy, she said. Everyone looks at me like I'm some savior. But I was never trained for this. I wasn't raised to lead. I was thrown away. Jace reached into his jacket and pulled out something small. A stone. Smooth, round, human-made. He placed it in her palm. "What's this?" she asked. "A reminder," he said. "Even broken things can be polished into something beautiful." She stared at the stone, then at him. And for the first time, her voice trembled with something new. Not fear, not rage, but softness. "I wouldn't be here without you." He leaned back, watching the stars. "You would have gotten here. Yeah? Maybe not the same way. But you've always had the strength. I just made sure no one stepped on it before it grew." The stars were quiet that night, but two constellations blinked above, one named after Jace's homeworld, Earth. The other, renamed by Zalari, the Spark Reborn. Months later, a human ambassador visited the capital. As he walked through the new city, full of alien human engineers and laughing children, he asked one question: who built all of this? The Graxian tour. Guide smiled and pointed to a statue near the central dome. It was not a queen, not a soldier. It was a girl holding a staff in one hand and a circuit board in the other. At the base of the statue, the words were carved in both human and Graxian. She was given as a joke, but she became the answer. Somewhere in the workshop, Jace walked in and handed Zalari a cup of her favorite drink. She looked up from her plans, smudged with oil and ink. "You really think we can fix the galaxy?" she asked, half-smiling. Jace tapped her forehead gently. "You already started.